Welcome to Command Roasters. I'm going to show you how to do the deep clean on the roaster. This is what we done or do after about every 100 roasts or so. And so you do the same as the light cleaning that you do after every 30 roasts. This is a couple of extra parts that we clean on the deep roast. And what I'm going to show you is just on the base part first. Once we've removed the top, you can see there's a bit of dust and powder just lying around the burner. I'm just quickly going to vacuum that bit away. So the part that we do now is we just turn the roaster up onto the side where the dials are and carefully balance so it doesn't fall over. Sometimes just use this light just to kind of give myself a bit of a point where it kind of just so it prevents the roaster from falling over. And what we're going to do is just take this gooseneck out. Now it'll come out here. We've got to undo the nut, and there's 3 M3 screws that we have to take off on this roaster. Right, to remove this gooseneck, first I just want to say we must be careful not to disturb any of the piping or try and bend things or move things around. They're all quite secure and in place, but it is not difficult to get that out. And this little lock nut, a little M3 lock nut here, that we need to, you can use a long nose plier or just to loosen it up, and once it's loose it should come out quite easily. Okay, now for the last bit you can just turn this out. I can just use my one hand to support the roaster. That's the little M3 lock nut. Take that one off, and then remove these 2 3mm bolts. Just careful that they don't fall into the roaster when they're coming off. There they are. Right there. And then there's one on this side. And then we've got an M3 that is on this little control arm for the flower valve. So when you move the flower valve open and closed, this little arm closes and opens a valve there. We need to take that little M3 out there. Now you can use like the Allen keys that we've given you. I use a little tool that I've got that just makes it a little bit easier to get in and out of there. So I'm just going to unscrew that. There we go. Right, to remove this, it's loose now and all the points where it was attached. You can just gently slide it out, and then it will come out. And then you can see it's just got a bit of powder dust in it. And I'm just going to clean this quickly in the sink. Like I'm cleaning quickly. Okay, I've just taken this to the kitchen sink and just give it a bit of a clean with a sponge and a bit of kitchen soap, just to take the powdery stuff off. You don't have to worry about the staining. It's just to get the powdery things off here. And I'm just going to do a little bit of a clean just at the back there where that powdery stuff is sitting there. Just a bit with this glass and mirror cleaner again. And I'm just going to carefully give that a wipe. Once again, just to take the powdery bits off. Just clean that up nicely. As you can see, that stuff works really well. Once again, try not to disturb anything, bend or put things out of place. Then we're just going to put this back in again, and with this little valve towards the back, we just slide this through there, line it up so that, let's make sure that misses everything there, and then we're just going to pop it in. Trick is just to line it up with this little pin that's out there, little screw, and once it's in place like that, we are going to reattach all the screws. I'm going to start by just putting this lock nut in place here, so that it stays there. Not going to tighten that up yet. And then the two shorter M3s go into the holes here, just line them up. There she goes. And just past this gas regulator, we'll put this one in there. Okay, so there's a bit of movement on it and I haven't tightened it up. The next we're going to put this one in. It's a bit more challenging, but we get it through the little washer into place, and now you can just use your Allen key to tighten up on it. I just use this tool of mine. Okay, let me just turn it once or twice just to use that. Okay, so we tighten this up until you feel it's tight, and then sort of one turn loose. And what we want is kind of, if you take the flower valve, you kind of want that free movement on it. Now we're just going to tighten up, apply a little bit of pressure down, and we tighten up these two M3 bolts at the top here, and also the one on this side. That's it. And now I'm going to tighten up on this M5 nut. That's it, not too tight, just so it's in place. There we go. And then just do a quick test, and you can see that the flower valve is working properly. Alright guys, in terms of the deep clean for the roaster, for the top part, or for the base part of it, that's as far as we go with that. You can now, if you want to, just give it a quick spray with this Tigress cleaner, and just give it underneath here where we haven't cleaned before. Just give this a nice clean off, and your roaster is basically back to new. And then just a quick spray with the SC one on the metal work underneath here. And once again, just with this polyester cloth, we give it a wipe down. Okay. And that's the roaster base deep clean part done as well. Thank you for watching the YouTube, and please subscribe. Alright, we're done with the base part, so we're going to take this away and just put it aside. So I'm just going to move it across here. And we are just going to have a look at the parts on the roaster top that we deep clean. To start with, we are going to remove this cover, and we'll do this first. To remove the cover, you use your M5X Allen key, like we've used my little tool for that, and we take this little tilt arm off. Keep these two screws with it because they're slightly longer than the rest of them for the specific function there. And now we are going to take the cover off. I start with taking these M5 dome nuts off. Just put a bit of pressure on the plate to take that off. For now I leave this one in. Just swing it around. So I just keep my hand at the bottom of the cover to take the pressure so it won't just spring open. Then we let it open up. That's it. And we take this last M5 up. There you go. You'll see there's a bit of dirt that's accumulated in here, and we will clean this up just now with that same spray. Right, to remove this aluminium cover, I use my hand and I just apply a bit of pressure underneath here until it clips off these two nuts that hold it in place there, and you can bring it forward. And then on this side, you do that, slide it off. So if you can side, okay, there's a bit of a bend, but you can just straighten that up again. Okay, that's taking that aluminium cover off, which is a heat shield. And now you can basically see your roaster drum, and you can see the diffuser system at the bottom. What we want to do now is we want to clean behind this, what we call the front plate. These are this is my 10mm, you can use a 10mm spanner or a socket, and we just loosen up this dome nut. Remember, we've taken that one off already, so there's 5 more of them. I loosen them up, and then we're just going to take them off. Keep the hinge to the one side. Same on this side. There. Take these dome nuts off. Okay. That's all off. That's all off. Now I'm just going to tilt the roaster slightly back and just apply a little bit of pressure on these points, and it will slide off. You can stop now. So I've tilted the roaster back, and you kind of just apply a bit of pressure until you get the front plate to slide off. And I'm just going to stand it down like that. And this is the part that we just want to give a clean. And what I'll do with this, you'll also see just the inside of the chimney here, the chute needs a bit of a clean up. The bearing is here. Be careful, there's a washer that sits here. Make sure that that stays on. I do not clean the inside of the drum at all. The dark kind of oil colors that you see there is basically the seasoning of the drum. I'll vacuum this little bit up and vacuum a little bit of the dust around the edges here, but for now you can just leave it exactly like that. The only part that we want to clean is just doing this whole section, and you can do this in the kitchen sink. Just make sure that you don't scratch the glass, but I'm going to use some of the spray and a bit of soapy water. Just let it soak for a little bit and use the paintbrush and soapy water to take most of it off, and then I'll clean the rest off with this glass and mirror cleaner. Right, I've just given this a clean in the kitchen sink and taken all the powdery bits and pieces and stuff like that off. So what I'm going to do is just use this mirror and glass This is quite a staining and it's not easy to come off, but it's also not necessary. So what I'm going to do now is just a little bit of the oils and stuff that is on here. I'm just going to wipe so that to make sure that that comes off. But as you can see, the discoloration and stuff like that, that will stay there. And I just make sure that I've given it a nice clean in the back. The most important part is getting all the powdery bits and stuff like that off. And as you can see there now, that's removed from it. Okay, then it's going to go quick clean here, just with a vacuum. Washer stays there, and now we're just going to put the front plate back on again. And there's our little bearing, so we just line this all up and we just clip it back in. Okay, just clip it back in, and now we're going to start with the first. We'll put our dome nuts on. Go there. Don't tighten them individually. We're sort of just going to systematically turn them tighter. And then we can remove that one. This is just to get the front plate back into position and set up. Right, start with this 4 here, and we just sort of go crisscross, not fully tight, just sort of just to set the front plate back into position. They're all in place. I'll take that off, and I'm just going to fit the hinge. Tighten up that a little bit. Take this one off. Okay, so that part is done. The next step is put the cover back on, this aluminium cover, and the little hole is on the same side as the handle. So we just want to slide it in there and pass those first two. So these nuts are now on the outside, plus that nut here. This top nut, go past that, so you'll see it's behind, and then on this side put it in behind there, and then just push it back in, and that's back in position. That's it, so there's a tiny little gap at the bottom there. And that's back in place. The next part that we're going to replace is we are going to put back our cover plate. Actually, hang on, before we do that, let's just give this a good wipe down as well. Once again, the cormorant name is on the side of the handle, and we start by replacing the two top bolts in front here. Once again, I don't go tight and just loosen it up a little bit. Same at the back. So it's on, but it's not tight. There's a bit of movement on it. We take the roaster now and we're going to lay it on the side so the handles are at the top on this side. Apply a bit of pressure and we put these also just lightly back in. Okay, I'm going to turn it around. Just light on that side. Do exactly the same. Okay, once they're all in place but not tightened at all, bring the roaster up. And I'm just going to feel, and if it's necessary, just feel that it lines up and doesn't stick over the edges in the front here. If it does, just lightly give it a tap just to set it back. And then we're going to start at the top. Tighten up there and tighten the back one. Apply a little bit of pressure on this edge here. Tighten up the screw there and the screw at the bottom. And then we do the same on this side. Apply a little bit of pressure. Apply a little bit of pressure. Tighten up there. Okay. Alright, so there's no gaps between the plate and this front plate. And then we can do the same at the back. Turn it a little bit of pressure. And the same here. And you can see our cover plate is back on the roaster. Right guys, that's the end of the deep clean of the roaster. As you can see, it's not really very complicated. And I hope this has been useful. Thank you for watching our YouTube channel and please subscribe.